Because you said you got to have the outcome in mind.
We do. I mean, so we're working backwards from a 2037 goal of 18 brands, $5 billion in sales. Everything that we've done is focused on having a smaller number of large franchisees, is to allow franchise owners to build bigger businesses. So when you think about any business, which, reputation does matter. Our body of work matters in times like that. But
what's up, Well Builders? Today, I've got a guy who's created hundreds of millions of dollars in enterprise value through franchising. In fact, his first franchise had over 240 locations, which he sold, and now he has a new franchise that's already worth 9 figures. It's absolutely crazy. I got Jeff Dudan. What's up, man?
Hey, glad to be here, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I was on your show, which was great, and I was like, man, I want you to come on mine and talk about franchising because it's obviously like people kind of know what it is, but to see somebody who's done it at an extremely high level, I want to know the ins and outs.
Yeah, first of all, I rewatched our show, and I don't get a chance to go back and rewatch them. That was a great show, man. I really enjoyed having you on, enjoyed it. And, franchising, it's about people. And I've always said that families start franchise concepts. Corporations, private equity firms struggle to start emerging brands because you have to care so much about the people.
Right.
I mean, we've got a platform that we built in less than 3 years. We've got 220 owners operating about 700 franchise territories in it in that short amount of time. We've had a family die, husband, wife, 2 kids die in a plane crash.
Dang.
We've had people go to addiction, go to recovery. We've had divorces. So, man, when you're in business with franchisees, you've got to have a certain empathy. You've got to have a certain heart. You got to have a certain passion, a servant mindset.
Yep.
Because you're really in life with these people. And, 20% of them are amazing and they just take off. But, the rest of them, they all need some sort of coaching. They need, maybe their sales reluctance. Maybe they need they need something to be a successful business owner, and it's very individualized inside of that relationship that you get with the franchise owner. So it's great for me. I coached over 30 seasons of my kids' sports. Man, it was the greatest thing that I ever had the opportunity to do. And working with franchisees is very similar, man.
Yeah.
Giving them a playbook, helping them, convincing them. I like to say one of my favorite definitions of leadership is manipulation with good intent, right?
Yeah.
Manipulating them into adopting the behaviors and the habits that are going to make them successful inside of it. So yeah, franchising's great. 1 out of 9 people in this country work for a franchise system, by or for a franchise business. 9 million people in this country work in a franchise of some sort.
Got it. So I want to talk about the 80% that kind of have a tougher time, right? It sounds like the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Right? 20% of them don't need a lot of hand holding, and they're probably going to be, make up a huge chunk of the success.
Sure.
And once again, this is any industry, and that's what the 80-20 rule is. But before I get into that, I just kind of want to know your background and how you got into it. So did you ever start out as a franchisee, aka you bought into a franchise, or were you always the franchisor? You started your own thing, then it became a franchise?
I was close. So I cut my teeth in the insurance restoration business in 1992 after Hurricane Andrew in South Florida. I'd gone to Appalachian State University on a football scholarship out of Chicago, started the painting business while I was there. So I kind of had this entrepreneurial bent.
Now you're just painting houses and things like that.
We painted student housing apartments.
Got it.
So they had a problem getting hundreds and hundreds of apartments painted in that lease changeover time.
A month.
Yeah, right. In 2 weeks at the end of May, and then another 2 weeks right at the end of July. And my buddy and I had started the painting business. We did a couple of apartments for them. They're like, do you guys think you could put a crew together? So we went to all the athletes, the basketball players, everybody who was taking classes over the summer, and we recruited them to be on our little painting company, and we would do 15 or 20 apartments in a day with them.
Wow.
So yeah, real successful. I mean, we split, my partner and I split about $76,000 over that little 1 month period. And this was 1989, 1990. Yeah. So it was good money for summer work.
A ton of money.
And so I never took a job. I went to South Florida, cut my teeth in the insurance restoration business. I did take a job with a company down there that had kind of a dealership model. And I looked at joining that and, going to another city and opening a dealership. Then I thought, you know what, I can just probably do this myself. So that's what I set out to do.
So you were thinking about, when you say a dealership, that's basically like becoming a franchisee.
Yeah.
And then you said, I'll just start myself. I'll just start my own version.
Right.
Okay. So how did that go?
Myself, 3 partners, moved up to Orlando, started a business there, and then in 1994, and then in 1995, I moved back up to Charlotte. I had my fiance to get married, raise our family in North Carolina, and start our second location. We became, over the next 10 years, an international disaster restoration business. So we did government contracts, very technical contracts, Navy SEAL, like rappelling down into diving tanks for the Navy SEALs to remediate mold, or hydroelectric dams, doing a lot of work in institutions, in VA hospitals, at military bases. And then in local markets, we sprang up offices where we were doing this work directly, which was basically water damage remediation, mold remediation, all that kind of stuff. So after 10 years, I bought up my last partner, and I hired some consultants, and they came into the business. And because I recognized, now we were already working all over the country, California, Hawaii, we were working all over the Caribbean. So we were a good sized business.
Yeah. Like how much revenue do you think you were doing at that point?
20
million across all the locations.
Yeah, 20.
Yep.
There were spikes, like in Katrina, we did 100.
Wow.
But over a 4-year period. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of JVs, a lot of partnerships and things like that. But we ran 100 through, and it was good. But I really was struggling kind of to scale. And then I had been working on this franchise business off the side of my desk. I know you start lots and lots of businesses.
Yep.
So, what you got to water what you want to grow.
Yep.
And if you don't feed it, then it'll die. So brought in some consultants after I bought my last partner out. And we did 2 things. Number one, we invested in our direct business through semi-trucks, tractor trailers, drying equipment, generators on wheels, a fleet of pickup trucks, a fleet of campers, so that we could mobilize into a disaster. And guess what? That was 2004, 2005. Katrina hit. So we were ready. Preparation met opportunity. And I'll never forget, I was driving home in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. And I would always go down and be the tip of the sword on the storm response. You can never know what's happening in a hurricane unless you actually get on the ground and you go down there and see what's going on. If you wait till you see it on the news, then it's too late. Plus, we had customers we were responsible to service down there. So I'd gone down there to set up that storm response for about 3 months. And I was on my way back, and I was driving through the night because I was missing my son's first football season. He was 7 years old. And App State was my 3rd college. So, I and it wasn't because I was such a great student. They just kept recruiting me away. There was no NIL money. I mean, it was, I was really trying to find myself.
You were there for football?
Yeah, I played, I was chasing a football around in college.
I know what that's like. Yeah. Not football, but a different type of ball.
Yeah. And so I realized that history was going to repeat itself because I was to the point now where I was never home.
Yeah.
And I had these 3 small children. So I decided in the middle of the night, and when I look back, there was an inflection point there, to sell all of my company stores that I had just acquired from my last partner under a franchise model and commit to franchising. And then we would keep our commercial services and our governmental contracting group to kind of continue to feed us and to pay for our franchising habit. And then the money that I sold those locations for also paid for our franchising habit. So we converted to a franchise model. That was 2006, 7, and 8. I sold our company stores. 2009, I launched to the marketplace. We ended up selling 240 franchises, and I sold the business 9 years later, January 1st, 2019.
Got it. So a couple things I want to break down. So you talked about a franchise habit. What is that?
Well, lack of focus leads to a lack of greatness. I saw in 1992 in Hurricane Andrew that the franchise businesses were getting all the work. So I knew when I started this company in 1994 that I wanted it to be a franchise and that I wanted to lead it, but I had business partners and the capital, the risk.
Did you only have them because of capital needs? Why did you have partners?
I was in my early 20s.
It's just you and your buddies and you're like, let's all do it.
Well, it was my buddy from college.
Yep.
Who we did the painting with. And then these 2 guys were about 10 years older than us. They were professionals.
Got it.
Yeah. So we were kind of the muscle. And they were the professionals, and we got to be friends. They were mentors to us while we were working in South Florida, and they just approached us and said, "You guys want to do a business together?" And we said yes.
So you definitely needed them initially.
We did. Now, they wanted 51%,
Right.
and but they were both Florida Gators. So the deal I cut with them was we will brand the company orange and blue, Gators colors,
Yeah.
but it's got to be 50-50.
Okay.
And if I hadn't done that, none of this probably would have happened.
Wow.
Because,
But how did you even break a 50-50 tie?
well,
Did you bought out one of the other guys? Or
well, because when it was, one of the guys was 25 and he wanted to go, or it was decided he needed to go. So it was kind of 3-on-1 there.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah. And then a couple years later, it was one of the other guys that needed to go. So then it was, 3-way there. And then the last guy was just a tremendous mentor to me. And he was manic depressive Mensa genius. So that's a tough combination.
Yeah.
So I had left him in Florida to run the business, and we were growing the business so fast from my location, and he really couldn't tolerate the growth. So, we hired an intermediary to handle the final sale of the business.
Right.
And the
You
guy
guys
said,
just couldn't agree.
well, no, he said, I've never been part of a negotiation where the seller was trying to take less and the buyer was trying to give the seller more.
Yeah, you guys wanted to be amicable because
we
he's your mentor.
We cared about each other.
Yeah.
I knew that he was probably not going to be doing anything after this for a while for his career.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to take care of him as best I could. So that was very amicable.
Yeah.
And then I had the whole thing, $4 million in debt, no franchisees, several $1 million in construction receivables from a hurricane. And that was where I started.
Got it.
Less than nothing.
So before I get into, the mechanics of how it switched to a franchise and why that was so important, I want to just talk about partnerships because a lot of people listening right now have partnerships. And I've been known to advise people to break up a lot of partnerships, with just different clients and students and things because, when I look at it, I'm just like, well, this doesn't even make sense why you guys are partners. Like there's no, like this person's not providing any value to the partnership or, something changes along the way like it did for you, right? Like life just changes.
Right.
And it becomes really difficult to remain partners with anyone just because, if we're about to go build a business the next 10 years together, who knows where everyone's life is going? Like, I didn't have kids 10 years ago.
Right.
All of a sudden, I was just getting married 10 years ago. And now I got 3 kids. My priorities have shifted. I got more I'm doing on the faith-based side. That's like important to me. I've made good money to this point, whereas others, like maybe they want to make more money. Maybe they haven't made enough money. And, it's just like there's this dynamic of family, of priorities, of money. And it's so hard to see 2 people stay in alignment on all those things for like a decade.
Yeah. After I sold my business in 2019, I got into 41 different businesses.
Okay.
Yeah. My brother was the CFO of the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
And he had led the sale for Mr. Richardson to the Tepper Group. It was 2018. He had been working in transition. I knew that he wasn't happy, so I recruited him back to kind of start a little family office.
Got it.
And you need a financial guy as a basis for that. And, I said, I'm going to go out and make the messes and you're going to clean them up. And that was the deal, right?
I'm just going to guess where the story goes.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. I'm so glad for that 3-year period because I learned so much. I built oil change business. We built health and wellness businesses, kids, pets, some non-correlated to franchising. We own we got involved really early and we own part of the country's largest parking management and valet business.
Got it.
We were 13th when we invested in the country, and they did a recap. They got cash on the balance sheet. COVID hit, and everybody was for sale. And we just went out and acquired
all the guys,
everybody, and we just recently became the number one. We'll do we've done hundreds of acquisitions in that business. So that was great. Like just the opportunity to see that and be a part of something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but about partnerships specifically, I've really learned some things to look out for. First of all, when my kids ask me, about going into business or something like that, I'll say the first thing you need to understand about people is how do they make their money? Some people are transactors, meaning that they make money on every transaction. There's very little relationship equity involved there. They're, they could be brokers. They could be, selling something, but it's like they want to make a transaction and there's not going to be a relationship behind it. And they want a table scrape every time, but they're probably not going to be willing to invest deeply in business, in building a business. So like a builder would. Like I'm a builder. I build for long term. I build a business like I'm never going to sell it.
Yeah.
I want to build something of quality. I never want to have to hide my face because it's not delivering on what we promised or things like that. You've got creatives. People can build business around being creatives.
Yeah.
And things like that. So, when you look at a partner, it's like, all right, well, if you know how they make their money and they historically have made their money, you know how they're likely to act in the future. So don't get in business with a transactor to build something like a franchise business where we have to make a lot of investment because we get paid pennies on the dollar on the back end. We're not going to make money day one.
Yeah.
We might not make money for 3 years in building a franchise brand.
The money's made on the exit, potentially.
Well, it's big recurring.
Okay.
It's big recurring revenue, but you've got to get some scale to it just based on the model.
Right.
And then I think there's a fallacy around people get sideways with partners when it's based on who's doing what.
Yeah.
Which really shouldn't matter if you're building a business to scale. Like, you do coaching.
Yep.
You've got different groups. People will pay you a lot of money for a little bit of time. It's not about how much time you're investing in them. It's the value that you're creating. Mm-hmm. So, if somebody's contribution is based on work and my contribution was based on a little bit of capital and some advisory.
Yeah.
If it gets to the fact that they're disenfranchised because I'm not working as hard as them, but that was never the deal.
Yeah.
I provided my value in the way that we agreed to.
Yeah.
So partnerships.
And by the way, I've been in that situation before, so I know exactly what that's like. But I guess when I break up partnerships, I'm not talking about my own, but advising people.
Sure.
It's because like one person just isn't providing any value.
Right.
We're not even talking work hours. Like they're just not valuable to the company.
Good agreements up front head off bad disagreements down the road. So when I got in trouble, I was lazy.
Okay.
I was lazy in deal structure. I would give away something that, had value and that people were going to not do anything and they were going to continue to have that value. And then 2 years later, I didn't feel good because they had this economic interest in this business that they hadn't really earned.
Exactly.
But I gave it to them.
Yeah, that's just dumb on your part.
It's my fault.
Yeah.
Right. So
you gotta live with it.
Yeah. That's what I did and they took it.
Yeah.
And so, understanding up front, like being really, really clear. Like I'm bringing on a new advisor to Homefront Brands. He's a guy that I've worked with, great transactional guy, private equity, just one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. And I've been with him in 5 or 6 different transactions now. And his schedule finally cleared enough to give us the time and energy. And it's a 15-page advisory agreement. It's very clear.
Who's doing what? What happens if you don't?
Probably why he's successful.
Yeah.
He knows exactly the value that he brings. He spells it all out up front, and then he delivers in spades. He delivers more than is expected. So, partnerships, you have to be really like, if you're insecure or you're desperate or you think that somebody has some temporary value to provide to the enterprise, then none of those are really good reasons to bring on a partner.
Yeah, those are employees or consultants.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't need to have equity.
Yeah, get scrappy.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of tell a lot of people who are starting businesses. I'm like, why do you need them to be your partner? They're just going to be a salesperson. Like
that's right.
That's an employee.
Yeah.
Now all that makes sense. How many of those 41 businesses do you still have? Like
dozen.
Okay, so you've sold off or sold your interest?
Probably half.
Okay.
Some of them were very most of them were passive. I would say, 15 of them were operating or active in some capacity where I was either doing advisory or something like that. I mean, we had some COVID.
Was it hard to
We had
manage?
some COVID businesses.
Okay, got
We
it.
built this killer COVID app. Man, it was a game changer.
You were selling shots and or mask.
Nah, I didn't do that. Some technology and
It's like those COVID
testing.
The testing killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Those companies
Yeah.
freaking took it to the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Like trend-based businesses. Like you knew that wasn't going to last, but there is a period of time where it's going to crush.
I don't know how much Bitcoin did you buy?
Yeah.
It's at 102 right now.
Yeah.
I've probably been behind on trends.
Yeah.
It's actually one of my focuses for 25.
Okay.
Is to spend a certain amount of time paying attention to what's coming down the pipe.
AI.
Because, I'm so heavy into AI. We're investing heavily into it. I am committed to becoming an AI executive. I paid to have a super high-end AI speaker come out to our conference, our homecoming conference a couple of weeks ago, and really paid up to give our franchise owners this view of what AI could do for them and the tools to do it with.
Where it's going.
Oh my gosh, if you're not using it,
Yeah. How do you think it's gonna? I've been thinking about this with AI too. We're like jumping in so many different topics, but I have so many questions about guys who understand this. So where do you think AI is going to take all this? Like I'm already looking at it, and there's so much labor that I can just see is going to be gone.
yeah,
Like not even in the future, but like this year.
yes,
That's how quick it's already here.
yeah.
And I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, what do you do if that's like your skill set you've built your whole life for? And now AI's like, yeah, it's not that valuable anymore. You just got to prompt it.
It's about the question. So the smart creatives, there's a book called How Google Works.
I'm going to download that.
Yeah, and it's a great read. And it talks about how they identified and how they employed smart creatives. Because for them, it was more about the question than the answer. And, I mean, I don't think I stand alone when I say I think Google's going to do well.
Yeah. But even Google, I mean, they got so disrupted by Chat GPT. It's crazy.
Right. That's right.
Like, I don't use Google anymore.
Right.
And I would have never thought that business would ever face a threat, like in search.
Do you use like Perplexity? What do you use?
Oh, I just use Chat GPT.
Oh, just chat. Just go to chat. Yeah.
Chat is so much better. It's not even funny.
Right. Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, anyone who still uses Google for search, I'm just like, guys, chat will like, because I'll type like in-depth questions of different things, and like Google has this little AI feature at the top now too. It's not nearly as good as Chat GPT's.
Right.
But then it just shows you some articles, and you got to like dig through the articles. Chat GPT synthesizes every piece of information in the internet.
Yeah.
It's just like, write you your own article, and it's
That's
just
right.
like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can use a combination of tools and just get things in finished form. And I think what people do is they quit. So they'll use chat, they'll get the first iteration of it, then they'll take it out, and then they'll finish it themselves, where they should have just invested in another prompt.
Yeah, exactly.
And just keep going down with the prompt. So people that are not naturally curious or have chosen not to be curious, those are the people that are going to be disintermediated out of the workforce.
Even for me, we've been using chat in the business for like 2 years now. But I personally just recently started using it for my own personal use like months ago.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm like, yeah, you guys use it, like cool. But now I've just been doing it because I'm a naturally curious person. And so like I've actually been doing it a lot, reading my Bible. And so there'll be like very complex, let's just say a verse. And I'm like, hey, how does this verse correlate to a different verse? And it'll be like, well, this says this and this and this. And I'll be like, what do you think about, how was this said in the Hebrew versus the Greek? And it's like, well, in the Hebrew, it says this. In the Greek, it says this. And I was like, what would you base that? And then I'll ask it with a different denomination. I'd be like, so what would a Catholic say about this versus a Baptist? And then, you keep prompting it down, and it just starts to get to the end. And it's just like, all right, based on all that, what do you think an objective person would say this answer is? It's like, well, I would say that this would be the answer. And then I'll ask it like some of my favorite like pastors. I'll be like, what would this guy say about it?
Yeah.
And it knows. And I'm like, there's no way Google can't do that.
That's right. That's right. So think about, have you seen those Gemini commercials?
No.
Okay. What is that?
For crypto?
No, it's it's an AI tool.
Okay.
On maybe it's on the Android or whatever. Think about the conversation that you just had with chat, and is that going to replace a conversation that you would have had with your pastor?
And that's what I'm getting at, right? Because it is.
Yes.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Because I'm even going to chat and I'm like, from an unbiased point of view, tell me how this person would look at it versus this, person, right?
Right.
And it gives me both perspectives. Whereas if I ask any human, it's going to be biased.
Right.
To our own beliefs and everything else. And I don't have access to the entire internet to cross-reference all these things. Like, it absolutely is.
Have you seen Delphi.ai?
I've heard of it.
Okay. So I took all of my content. So podcasts, articles, anything about me we had a huge directory of PR from everything over the years, every interview I'd done for 30 years. We took a transcript of my books, and put my books in there, and just every link to everything that was there. It crunched it all down and it created a clone.
Yeah.
So you can text this clone, or you can call this clone. And I was sitting with a group of candidates. We have a big lunch. We have a big like picnic lunch outside after they come in for what we call our Meet the Team Day. And one of them turned and they said, hey, so tell me a little bit about your book Discernment, and what is it, what's the main point or whatever. And I said, hold on a minute. And I just typed that into I called myself. I asked it the question, and I let it, and it gave a better answer
than you would have.
So much more complete, much more.
And you're like, I believe that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
And then, so then, we're going to incorporate that into web pages. People, we can have hundreds and thousands of conversations simultaneously, asking about our franchise brands or anything else like that. So, think about the power of that. People can actually get into a conversation with me, and I've tested it. We've tested it extensively.
Yeah,
it's good. It doesn't say anything wrong. It doesn't. We tried to trip it up, get it to tell dirty jokes, and won't do it.
Yeah,
all of that stuff.
Even with chat and me. Like, it will say things like pretty much how I would agree with it. So like we've asked it questions like, what would Ryan Pineda say about this?
Okay.
And chat knows.
Oh, for sure.
And it's like, this is nuts. Even Facebook, I saw Instagram like launched an AI feature. It's like, you can have your Ryan AI like DM people.
Yeah.
It's like this new feature. And it's like, try conversating with it. So I'm like conversating with it. And I'm asking it just questions. And it's so funny. The Ryan AI is a salesman. He's like, no, you should just start investing in real estate. Ryan will help you out. Like, it's so funny. I was like, yep, yeah, that's about right. So, but even, like the things I've seen now are just so crazy. It's really mind blowing, because even somebody had sent me a Instagram story. They had screenshotted it. They're like, Ryan, you've made it. And I look at the thing. And he just had asked ChatGPT. He didn't even like prompt it anything about me. He's like, hey, like, what's an example of like an entrepreneur, like, building it up from scratch and becoming big, or like, I forgot what the prompt was. I was like, well, you could be like Ryan Pineda, who started out flipping couches, and then he then went on to flip houses, and now he does a lot of social media content. I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, and this is as worse as it's going to get.
Right.
It's only going to keep getting infinitely better.
How do you capture your thoughts in the moment?
So my theory in the moment is based on some books I've been reading for like the last 5 years that are actually now playing out. So I believe them even more. So one of these books, I'm gonna have them on the podcast, is called The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth.
Okay.
It's a really good book about tech in the future and how tech actually causes deflation for everyone. Right now we have inflation because the government prints money. But if there was no money printing, there would actually naturally be deflation. And we see this all throughout tech. Like, for example, with Tesla, since they're like, one of the biggest tech companies to ever exist. And they're obviously revolutionizing a lot of these things. 10 years ago, if somebody would have told you, dude, you're going to have a car that's faster than supercars. It's going to drive itself. It's going to have more tech than everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, you can get it for like 25 grand and it doesn't need gas.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
you're crazy.
There's no way.
Yeah.
But that's literally a Tesla. And Elon's like, yeah, I mean, you just start to think about these things. You're not going to have to pay for energy, solar. They're going to figure all that out. You think about, like, even just from a content perspective, the fact that chat is free and just gives you all this information. YouTube is free. Like, our world actually gets better for less. So everything is getting cheaper around us with technology.
Right.
And better. And so that creates deflation.
You can't find good deals. Is it harder for you to find good real estate deals?
So I don't know where that ends up going. It's not for us.
Okay.
But because we're a user of tech, I think it widens the gap. The users of tech and AI are just fine. Everyone else is toast.
That's right.
That's what I think happens on that front. But long story short, that book's premise is like deflation is the real thing that's happening. Like, and I believe that full-heartedly with real estate. Real estate is very expensive right now for most people, cost of living, all that stuff. But tech will create a way as time goes on to go 3D print houses. It'll be ultra cheap. It'll be better. They'll have everything that you need, and they'll just go buy cheap land on the outskirts of cities, and boom, you got a house for 40 grand. That's sick. Like, I 100% know that will happen because tech will get there at some point. So cost of living will be cheap. All the entertainment you want is free. Cars, everything will be cheap. In fact, I actually don't even think people will drive in the future. So I think it'll be illegal to drive in probably at some point. Let's say it's 20, 30 years down the road.
Because they're a liability versus the autonomous
100%.
cars? Yeah.
The autonomous cars will never get they will, but it'll be like 0.001%.
Right.
There's no more DUIs. There's no more people. And guess what? I don't have a car payment. I don't have insurance.
Right.
I don't need garages. You don't need any of these things that you currently need. 95% of parking lots don't get used. They only get used 5% of the time. It's such unnecessary waste because of the way we use vehicles today. But that will go away with autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
And you'll pay like $200 a month for an autonomous subscription. And it'll just pick you up when you want, take you to your thing. Everything will just be that way. And it'll be cheaper, better. You have more time back because you're not driving. You just do whatever you want in the car. So, like, once again, that's an example of deflation. It's just better every way you cut it.
Right.
So if you have like no car payment, all your entertainment's free, your energy and your housing's cheap, everything gets cheaper with tech.
Yeah. There was a book called The Big Switch where it talked about the big switches of basically networking. So, at first it was the grist mill that they put on the river to power the wheel. And then it went into like factories.
Yeah.
Factories had to have their own power plant. And then when they built a network of electricity, then you could have a centralized power plant. And that's when everything just went bananas.
Yeah.
And everything gets cheaper, right? Because if you wanted to manufacture it, you actually had to create your own power.
Yeah.
And all of that. Then it went on to the internet and, in a phone system, first of all, and then it went on to the internet. So, like, the next thing is, like, it's just...
It always makes everything better
Yeah.
and cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much was the internet and all? The first cell phone, so expensive, sucks.
Yeah.
Now you have the smartest thing, like, in existence in your hand.
That's right.
And it costs nothing relative to the amount of value it generates.
Back to the question. How do you capture your best thoughts in the moment?
How do I capture it, or how do I, like, what am I thinking right now?
So you're driving in a car.
Okay.
Because you still drive.
Yeah.
And
sometimes I got full self-driving, but yeah.
Okay. Yep. But okay. So now you've got this great idea. Are you speaking it into what I've had to learn to do is to speak it into an AI tool.
Oh.
So that it gets somewhere.
Oh, I don't do that.
There should be nothing that's where we're going or where I've gone is nothing should be not recorded. Have you heard of Rilla Voice?
No.
Okay. Faster than Salesforce to $20 million in recurring revenue.
Wow.
Sebastian Jimenez was a kid and he was working for Red Bull and he was doing interviews on a pad of paper and for people that were at Red Bull events. So customer surveys, marketing information, stuff like that. And he asked people, goes, how many of these interviews do you get that you don't even look at? And they're like, they added it up, it was like 40,000 a year. So what he did was he created an app to record those conversations in real time and process them with AI. So, and then what he did was he rolled it out to the home services space. So when somebody comes to sell you a garage door, or something like that, and they've got their phone or they've got their tablet out, you've already signed off through the process that it's okay to record that.
Got it.
So now that sales coaching is happening. So not only to that person, they immediately get the sales coaching, so now you know who your better salespeople are, and you can compare people across your entire organization, across the industry, across anything.
What's that called?
It's called Rilla, Rilla, Voice. And the guy's name is Sebastian Jimenez, and he's brilliant, 28-year-old guy, offices in New York. And but like tools like that, and then Mike Koenig, this AI guy that I had come speak at the conference, we're listening to some speakers, and he's watching me write notes out, and he's like, "Just stop that, will you?" and he had 2 little iPads up, and then as soon as the speaker was over, I got an email and had the entire talk summarized in my email.
Yeah, Zoom is doing that now too.
Yeah.
Like Zoom will send the recap, and I'm like, dang, that was super accurate.
Yeah. So all of this, like, let me take a note, let me follow up, let me do all that. You asked, how is AI going to impact? I am committed to be an AI executive. Yeah. And it's hard because you go back to your old habits, and I'm older, I've been doing this.
So you're like, I'm not writing anything. I'm gonna record it all.
It needs to happen automatically. It needs to go where it needs to go. It needs to be accessible, and then we need to be able to monetize it, use it, turn it into a book, do whatever we need to do with it. But it's hard. It's a hard habit. Yeah.
But I don't think it will be as time goes. Like, I remember when I said, I want to be an influencer. It's like, oh, it's weird. Like, oh, I'm filming. I'm at Ryan's office with Jeff right now, right?
Yeah.
It's like weird when you first start doing it. But then as time goes on, it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course I'm filming myself here.
That's right.
So I think it'll get easy, but I'm gonna ask my friend Tommy Mello if they're using that for.
They are.
Yeah. That makes sense. I was just with him at his office like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Did you do his podcast?
Yeah. So he's always
he's great.
Good to talk to.
Yeah, he's great.
But okay, yeah, AI is the future. I'm committed in 2025 to really same thing. Like I actually literally have a meeting right after this to talk about just different things we're going to do. Because I just see it now as, look, if the biggest companies in the world have like this arms race with AI, it's probably pretty important, even for little guys.
Yeah. Do you know what big levers you're going to pull in 2025, or how you're going to score differently than you're scoring right now next year? When do you do your year-end plan? We're sitting here in December.
Yep.
Like, what's your cycle look like for planning?
So this whole year, 2024, has been a year of massive transition for me personally. I have like literally changed everything about our businesses, from the way we market to the way we price things. So now everything's monthly recurring.
Okay.
We used to not ever, because when you come from the house flipping world, everything is just one-time transaction of flip a house, be done, right? And even in the world of consulting and high-ticket coaching, it's like, all right, one-time, flat fee, big fee, whatever it is for however many months or year or whatever. But now everything is just switched over to monthly, and it took time to get that. But, same thing with like my theory of AI making everything better and cheaper. Everything we're doing now on the coaching front is now cheaper because you don't need as much upfront. And it's better. So the service, not only is it just coaching now, but we're combining all of the services with everything we do. So for example, let's just say our entry-level program used to be $10K for a year, okay? And you would get coaching and community and all the SOPs and resources that you need to go start flipping or wholesaling houses. Well, today, and by the way, if you wanted to join that program, you would need at least like $3 to $5K up front, and then you can, do a payment plan and do another $3K, whatever, right? Today, we don't even try to get that. It's just like, it's $1,000 a month. Okay.
Okay.
And most can't compete with that because your cost and you need chunks of cash up front. But what we've done now is we've added services and other things that people are going to have to buy anyways. And they're all included in the 1,000. So now people get softwares. So they get a CRM, they get a software to look up properties nationwide and look up their values and owner information, pull their data, all that stuff. Then they also get leads every single month because they're going to need leads in marketing.
Yeah.
So now for the same, actually cheaper, $1,000 a month, you get leads, one-on-one coaching with a coach, softwares, and just like literally the entire business in a box.
So you're stacking value.
Yep.
And
it's all sticky.
And
Because
bringing it forward.
Yeah, if you stop with us, you literally don't have a business.
Right. Do they get to walk out with their data and their CRM?
Yeah, they can have. Yeah, I mean, but if you go try to buy it a la carte somewhere else,
right, you can pay more.
you're gonna pay more.
Right.
You still got to buy leads. You're still gonna have to go buy a new CRM.
What about the education? Do you kind of parse that out over the first 6 months so that it encourages them? Because sometimes if you give everybody everything all at once,
Right.
they don't use it. They don't get to it.
Right. So, well, that's the beauty with this model too. It's now like the education used to be the thing that made money, whereas now it's more of support for the other services.
Okay.
And so the good thing about services, so the other part we're adding too, is hard money lending to it because they all need the lending to do the deals.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to go make all the money on the education, it's essentially like the education's pretty much free, right? As long as you use our CRM, our softwares, our leads, like stuff you're going to have to buy anyways.
Yeah.
You're also going to get this. And then when you use those things effectively and you get deals, well, you're also going to need to get a loan. So now all of a sudden, you take a customer that you guys have aligned incentives for success. Because if they actually do good, well, they're going to have to buy more leads, get more loans. That's the whole point of scaling the business.
Right.
And if I'm the provider of those versus just outsourcing it all, well, now all of a sudden, somebody who pays $1,000 a month might really make us 10 grand a month if they're doing loans and buying more leads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they would have paid that regardless.
Are you seeing some of the same tailwinds we're seeing? We're sitting here in December after a November election, and I'm seeing people come off the sidelines.
For sure.
Thinking that there's going to be more friendly business climates going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see it in the real estate market. I see people willing to spend now. Yeah, the last 2 years people have been very tight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, we do home services. So the general, I just got a Harris Research report emailed to me earlier today, and I was reading it, and it was just like I couldn't have written this myself with chat any better. It's like I sent it right to our franchise development department. I'm like, guys, I don't know how you use this information, but like things are looking like they're going to be very frothy here for the near term for home services, construction, real estate, all of these things.
Yeah, all of our industries are intertwined.
Yeah.
And so, I am absolutely seeing that. So, the last 2 years have been brutal in real estate. But obviously the next 4 years, I expect to be very good.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited about that. But that's kind of what I have pivoted to, where it's like, instead of it just being consulting, it's like, no, I literally just want to have all the best services that I actually use myself available to you. And we'll essentially train you for free. Just use our services. And that's kind of how I see the business now.
You asked me my thoughts on partnerships.
Yeah.
I shared some of them. What are your thoughts and what have you learned about collaborations? And do you look at those differently as partnerships?
I do look at them differently.
Okay. Is that a thing for you? Because it's new thinking for me, collaborations. A friend of mine has really gone deep into collaborations, defining them, naming them, understanding like how to look at a situation where there's a transaction, and then how to be disciplined about looking before and after the transaction to say, who else can we bring into this as a collaboration? And when I first started getting approached by these people, because it seemed like everywhere I turned around, they were trying to get in my pocket. They're like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? And we did this to your franchise network and this kind of thing. And I was like, no, I'll make the money here.
Yeah.
And, but then as I was more open to the concept of people bringing their unique abilities, people doing the things that they do exceptionally well and putting those together with trusted collaborations, naming it.
Yeah.
Have you found that that's been a way that you can accelerate your businesses?
Yeah. So I think of maybe when you first asked that question, the initial thing I thought about when you said collaboration was what we're doing right now, where, I don't think we're doing really any business together, at least none that, I see right off the bat. But, it's a collaboration of, we're on each other's podcast and audience, and whatever happens, right? And I love those kinds of collaborations. That's why you have a podcast, why I have a podcast. Like, it creates and fosters lots of relationships that could play out in lots of different ways. But with the way you're defining it now is actually what I just described with service. So like, I'm not a software company, right? We essentially white labeled other softwares. And so they came in as collaboration, and they were trying to get me to do this the whole time. Right. And I was always like, whatever. But now that we're fully, I wouldn't even call it like partners, because at any point, like there's no equity, there's not anything like that. It's like, we're just using each other's services. And, if I have all this marketing in this community and everything else that I've already paid to acquire, and they've paid all this money in tech and development and R&D and everything else that they've done it, well, they can just go together really well.
Did you name the baby?
Well, yeah. So like, our software is called Wealthy Deals and Wealthy CRM. Okay.
So it's a collaboration when you give the baby a name.
Exactly. So 100%. Yeah. And the same thing with our lending, Wealthy Lending. Yeah. So, same thing. Already got a hedge fund who's just has so many billions. Right. And they're like, yeah, we can't deploy it fast enough. We need guys like you who actually know how to deploy it. We can partner up on it. But it's not even like a partnership, once again, in that way. Yeah.
Individual transactions, but yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it's just having it's weird because it's not like a partnership, but it's not like an affiliate. It's in between, where there's a level of control on my end that's, different. Yeah,
I've seen so much more of that. One of our businesses has a single source of supply. So when you think about any business, and it's a significant business, it's our fastest growing franchise. It's the only one of its like. So I get very fortunate to have found this business where guy was at a conference. He was at his first franchise conference. He says, I got this business. I need somebody to partner with because I don't know how to do this. The first 3 people he asked brought him over to me. And I was like, he says, well, you must be the person, because I've asked 3 different people.
They all referred you.
And they all referred me over and all of that. Which, reputation does matter. Our body of work matters in times like that. But we have a single supply partner that creates the product. And fortunately, it's a company that I've worked with for almost 30 years, because they were a 3rd-generation family manufacturer of restoration equipment.
Got it.
So I've known this family. We had this trust, and I couldn't believe that they were just starting to make this product when I was standing up the first franchise of its type. Yeah. And it's a collaboration that we've done.
And initially, wouldn't you think that would be scary, having like a single source of, like, if they cut you off, the business is dead?
It is scary.
Yeah.
It is scary. I would really lose some sleep if I didn't have a long-term relationship with this family.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we've been able to work. There's been challenges. We had to make the product fire rating. There's been some building code things that have changed, and they've just stepped right up. And our franchise owners have been very collaborative with the process. We all understand that we're on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about that. And by the way, we kind of got sidetracked for, I don't know, the last 30 minutes talking about AI in the future. Yeah. So anybody in the comments, let us know if you enjoyed that, because I haven't talked a ton about AI, but let me know in the comments if you are cool with that sidetrack. Let's go back to franchising.
Sure.
So I don't even remember the main question I was going to ask you before I got down that rabbit hole, but you were talking about, partnerships was the first thing you talked about. You bought out your partners. You then reinvested that capital into going franchise, which you then sold your first one 10 years later.
That's right.
During that. So you had been in the restoration business, so I assume it was a restoration franchise.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And you already had all this experience doing all this stuff. You had built up some capital. You said you kept the government contract so that you could live off those for yourself. What was the next step? How'd you build it to 240, locations?
Well, it was after the great financial crisis. So we went to market in 2009
Sounds like a great time.
Yeah. And look, we weren't selling big screen TVs. It was recession resistant, super high margin services, needs based, third party paid by insurance companies. So if I'm somebody that one of our first franchisees and our first franchisee of the year was ex-president of Buckeye Steel, a huge steel company that went bankrupt in the Midwest. So if you worked for a corporation or you were in one of these industries or real estate or mortgages and you got caught up in all that,
Yep.
like, I just need to, I've got 10, 15 more years of career. I've got kids to put through college. I need something that's going to be dependable. And man, we look like it. Plus, we had a long history. And we had big shoulders. We had, tons of vehicles. So when they would come and look at us, they'd be like, well, this company's been doing this since 1994.
Right.
They're not a flash in the pan. They know what they're doing. So we had the credibility, and man, it just took off. Literally, we awarded most of those in the first 6 years. It was great. Yeah, it was really, it was timing.
What were you selling the franchises for back then?
Let's see. What did we do? We did, I think it was $44.5 for a single. And then I think you could get a 2-pack for $89.9, which is 2 territories.
Yep.
In service-based franchising, it's just more zip codes. You don't open up a second location. It's just a bigger territory.
Got it. So somebody went to,
Yeah.
well, Tommy doesn't franchise.
No.
But if A1 had different territories, if somebody goes to, because they just go to the main A1 website, whatever, and then all of a sudden if it's in this zip, he gets the lead.
That's right.
Got it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just sold by zips. People buy more zips.
Right.
How did it work though when, I guess, like, more people just had more zips starting out and then they got, I guess, consolidated?
No,
How did that work?
franchising's,
Because how did you service a whole area if you had one guy? And then what happened when you had two? And,
yeah, so there's, you sell a certain size territory. They've got to get a certain amount of equipment. They've got to make certain commitments to service that territory.
okay.
So, if you bought more than one territory, you might have to buy an additional truck. You had to buy a different equipment package. There were some loose performance requirements. Now, you can't really play God with these people, meaning, everybody's going to rise to their own level of incompetence. Like if you can build a team of 5, and that's the level of team you can build, it doesn't matter if you bought 3 territories, you're going to build a team of 5.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the business you have. So you try not to overexpand people.
Well, I guess I was just saying, starting out, right? You get your first Vegas guy.
Mm-hmm.
He just gets all of Las Vegas, I would assume.
No,
in the beginning.
no. If he
you
buys
just don't
one,
service?
he gets to service it until somebody else moves in.
That's what I'm saying. So he does get like extra zips until somebody buys.
You are allowed to service adjacent territories to you. Now, they can't go running all over the country, but they can service adjacent territories to them to the extent they're unoccupied. So they will get assigned those leads.
Right.
But then
as you sell, then
hey, now this territory is doing $250,000.
It becomes easier.
You better
to sell.
buy it, or somebody's going to come in and buy it and buy that business from you.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it creates this. We just had our second. We've built this entire 6-brand platform with hundreds of owners, and we had 400 people at conference.
Yeah.
Our second conference. I spent the first 35 minutes of conference on outcomes. People don't talk enough about outcomes in franchising. The first thing was Monopoly. Okay, you're here to play this game of Monopoly, and you're either going to through one business, one home front brand, or a combination of 2 or more. But like, your job is to scale your business inside of this platform.
Right.
Just like playing Monopoly. And, you're starting with one property, but you want to get other ones. And then I spent, again, the rest of that 35 minutes walking them through how businesses get valued and how to sell a business for a certain outcome.
Yeah, because franchisees can sell their business.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So it's really a wealth creation business model for people on Main Street USA, for families to do that. And then every regression analysis is the best. So working backwards from knowing, look, if I can get into this business and in 3 to 5 years, I can build a business that's going to generate this much net income, this much EBITDA, and it's going to be able to sell for this kind of multiple, then I can generate this outcome, several $1 million in 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
Or I can combine it with a neighbor. And now we've got a bigger EBITDA, so I'm going to get even a bigger multiple for that. So really, of the 400 people in the room, I said, raise your hand if you've ever sold a business. 11 people.
Yeah.
So, people are getting into a business with no concept of how to get out of a business, how to begin with the end in mind from an outcome perspective. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, it's going to be the weirdest start to a State of the Union.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's all figure out how we can get rid of these.
Yeah. I mean, really, it was a State of the Union for the brands. And I had a lot of work to do and speaking to every brand and all the things that were going on and marketing and the plans for 25 and all that. But I thought it was valuable enough to say, and I got a lot of positive feedback that said, you don't get into this thinking that, that's where you're going to end up. And sometimes you forget it because it's so hard when you're starting a business.
Yeah.
You're just in the minutia and
your franchise is called Homefront, for those wondering.
Homefront Brands is our platform name.
Yep.
We have Top Rail Fence, Window Hero, exterior house washing, drones. We clean buildings with drones.
Whoa.
Yes.
How do you clean buildings with drones?
We have drones that go up to 15 stories, dragging a hose on the outside of buildings, and we clean mid-rise buildings, commercial buildings, exteriors with drones. It is
like the sides?
Yeah, outside. Yeah, washing the buildings down.
So they do like what the window cleaners used to do?
Yes.
How do they dry it?
They don't.
You don't. It's just wash it?
I could say it's the wind from the propellers, but that would not be true.
How do they get enough water?
Man, we hook it up to our truck. Pump it up there.
So there's a truck with all this water.
Yeah.
The drone is connected to that hose, and it's just going everywhere.
Man, yeah, and kids are just flying them.
They're flying them, cleaning.
Yep. Yeah, just like that.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so I've
never heard of that.
That's our window here. Well, it's new.
Yeah.
It's new, and they won't get closer than 10 feet. You can't crash it because they won't get that close to the building. So you just go left, right, up or down.
And it's way cheaper than a window cleaning guy.
Think about what it did to the staffing model. Like there's 100 kids that'll fly a drone all day for every
For fun. They'll do it for free.
Yeah, that will pressure wash over their head. Now, we can't do all of our services with the drone, but like that's an example of, we're innovating like that in every single one of our brands. Like we are really committed to being.
You going to paint houses with a drone?
Well, I don't.
Like paint the exterior of a house with a drone? That'd be crazy.
One of our franchises we're just rolling out called Roof Scientist.
Okay.
It has a nano ceramic roof coating. So basically, instead of replacing your roof, you spray, it's 8 colors, you spray this roof coating on there, and then you can't even throw a metal ball and break it. So, and
is it ugly though?
No, you can't even tell.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's
like clear coat?
A third less, less than half, maybe even a third of what a roof replacement would cost. Right. I mean, we're getting the final testing done, but like last 30 years.
Wow. So is it better for like shingles?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's for shingles.
Yeah.
So basically we're even putting it on new roof applications.
Like tile?
We don't have to put it on tile yet.
Yeah.
There's a metal roofing product, but let's just say that a solar company wants to put a big solar array on an apartment building or something. They want this product on there because when the shingles deteriorate, they've got to take the solar stuff off to replace the shingles. This extends the life of it and the durability of it. So
before you get solar, just throw this thing over it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a perfect franchise, niche, specific.
It's a new product.
New product based. Yeah. So we've been really lucky.
Once again, this goes back to what I just said about tech makes everything better and cheaper.
That's right. Yeah.
Because now I can go replace my roof without dealing with any of this. And it's way faster, I would assume. Like, yeah, a third of the price, whatever.
Yeah. And then the one I was talking about that's the first of its kind is called temporary wall systems. So you know how you go to airports and you see those temporary walls that they put up when they're doing construction, like really high-end finish? That's us. Putting up those temporary walls. So we do a lot in healthcare. So because they're very high end, they're very durable, we can put them under negative pressure. So our franchise owners just go when there's a construction site or something going on. And what they used to have to do with drywall and framing and paint, which would take them 3 days, we can do in a few hours.
Really?
And it's sustainable because you don't have to fill up a landfill with all that stuff. It's really not any more expensive, and you can change the stuff around as the job's moving on. So again,
you're just supporting everything I said about real estate getting cheaper and everything else. Like the tech is going to change all of it.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to have. We've adopted really good tech in our brands.
What other tech is there in home service? And because I mean, it is going to affect real estate.
Well, I did talk about Rilla Voice. But I mean, automated AI appointment booking.
Yeah.
I mean, especially after hours and on weekends.
So is it a salesperson that picks up the call?
I mean, a lot of time, and historically it has been.
No, I'm saying is it an AI salesperson?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We've tested that.
Yeah.
We didn't have great success though for sales.
Right.
So is it more of like customer service based?
It can be text based too.
Yeah.
You know, just texting and then get them right on the calendar. You know, there's a couple of different products that we've deployed.
Yeah.
So we're at the beginning of it.
Right.
But very effective.
Got it.
Customer acquisition, content. We have just reorganized our marketing department.
Okay. I mean, what are you changing?
At some point, we just didn't need as many people.
Yep.
And we just had to reorganize into content specialists, and then we have to put them in intensive training with tools. What
positions got eliminated? I was literally
somebody
just
managing a CRM.
Yeah.
Like a handful of things, but copywriter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Just some redundancies that just, I mean, our organization, we knew that it was going to go from old form and we knew to new form.
So you're already making those switches.
Yeah.
That's the dilemma I'm at for this end of this year. Like, how the heck do you start implementing a lot of these things that are already here?
So we were having a problem doing it incrementally.
Yeah.
Because it became so clear. So the people that are left have to get new skills and do new jobs. So not only did some of the people go, the people that are left, are basically being retuned and retrained
to fit
into a new role. And I couldn't see doing it incrementally because it just wasn't getting done, because people are going to be resistant. I mean, people want to keep their jobs, and there's unless you take something away, people aren't going to do something new. So we just ripped the Band-Aid off right here in December. And I mean, we're going to be up and running, I think full force, 10x better, January 1.
Yeah. Better and cheaper.
Yeah.
And this has been always my theory too, with AI and all these things, is like, okay, your labor cost just went down because of AI. Where does that savings now go? My belief is that the customer is always the end beneficiary of all this.
There will be other places that the money will need to be invested to remain competitive in winning customers.
That's my point. So I think that the money, marketing department, great example. I'm going to bring you to my meeting after this if you got time.
Yeah.
Because I was literally meeting about that, of what ends up happening is, if you have less marketing cost, well, what are some other rising expenses? So we know customer acquisition is going up.
Yes.
So that's not changing. It's getting more costly to always get a customer. So it's it could just be a wash in that.
Right.
Ad spend ends up getting that revenue to maintain or whatever, right? Or the flip side is maybe that stays the same, CAC stays the same, labor goes down, but the value you have to deliver to a customer to compete in the marketplace now has to go up.
Yes.
And so before, maybe you guys charged X and now you charge less. Or maybe you're adding a new feature to the product, an add-on that is included at the same price.
Right. Yeah, it could be a consumer, it could be a warranty, it could be a bundle. I don't know. It could be something. But yeah, I don't think the money goes straight into your pocket.
No,
I think it gets deployed into future strategies.
This is what we were talking about 30 minutes ago when I was saying that people are going to have to develop new skills.
That's right.
There's no other way around this.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing I'm wrapping my head around, is I thought this was going to be something that had to happen in the next few years. But I actually think it has to happen now.
Yeah.
But people don't know that.
Think about business owners that don't do what you do and don't do what I do.
They're going to get left in the dust. They're not even going to have a business.
I'm out talking to anybody who I think is smart, is up to something, and is going somewhere. I mean, I travel extensively. I'm joining more groups, doing more stuff like this, interviewing more people. The podcast has brought in, half
the best experts.
It's the best experts, and it's and it's just, and then they're coming right in, and they're telling you.
Shoot me your AI experts. I want to interview them too.
Okay, 100%.
I'm just copying you.
Yeah.
You already did the research.
Yeah, 100%. And so, but if you're just in your business and you think it's just going to continue the way that it was, and you're just looking at customer acquisition costs go up and cost per lead go up, and all of a sudden your booking rate and your contact center is going down, and you don't understand why, because you're being disintermediated by kids. I went to this Rilla, so I went up and did Sebastian Jimenez's podcast in New York. 40 people in there. They all went to somewhere between MIT, Stanford, and all of this.
The whole company's 40 people at 20 million a year.
40 people.
Or 20 million a year recurring. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, average age, I think, was 25.
They're all just geniuses.
Yeah. It was all kids within, 4 or 5 years out of college. It was unbelievable. And they're setting the world on fire. I mean, think about that. It's for somebody like me who's established a career and a way of doing things and a way of hiring people and a way of managing people.
Yeah.
All that stuff's out the window.
We have to learn all these new things.
That's right.
Like, it don't matter what we've done to this point.
Yeah.
Like, if we don't adjust either, we're toast.
Now, relationships, that doesn't change. Being a decent human, that doesn't change. Respecting people. I had a mentoring conversation with a business partner today. And she shared with me, we had an employee in this business that went through a really bad health problem.
Yeah.
And I just said, we got you. We'll be with you through it. He was a great employee. And, and she reminded me, and I get together with him once a month for an hour.
Yeah.
This guy. And I had taught him the industry. He was brand newbie when I had just bought this company, and he was my first hire in to do the franchise sales and all of that. And he's just a great young man. But she reminded me, she goes, he looks at you as a father figure. He looks at you because I don't think he had one in his life.
Yeah.
He looks at you as he looks forward to that time. And I said, you know what? I've gotten a little bit lazy.
Yeah.
I've gotten a little bit lazy. I've been talking to him about numbers. I've been talking to him about this, but I kind of lost him in that, and we still need people.
Yeah.
And all the great things that are going to happen to us in life are going to be with the people that we go through life with.
Yeah.
And, those skills can't be disintermediated. And I think the creative skills, and now it's coming back. It's not the coding anymore. It's not the coding. It's not all that. It's the creativity, the ability to ask the right questions, and then to be able to do the people piece well.
Well, what's crazy is coding, was the super high value skill. But once again, AI is going to be able to just do a lot of it.
Yeah, it's gone.
So like these guys who are making hundreds of thousands a year as they were told to do the right things, like they can't be feeling that secure about their jobs.
Dude, they're all in my franchise pipeline.
They're trying to figure out what to do next.
No, man. Like with tech people, like our franchise pipeline is full of those people.
Yeah, those guys are paid so much money and friggin' chat's going to do it for free.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. We get to see through our franchise pipeline the early warning signs of industries that are getting disrupted.
Tech is getting so disrupted.
Because they'll find their way to us, or they'll find their way to a consultant and find their way to us.
Tech guys, if you want to flip houses, we got you. All right? We got you.
Absolutely.
So what do you think happens to all these people?
Well,
so first off, you said some people got laid off.
Sure.
Others got repurposed.
Yeah.
So tell me about how those decisions were made.
They were made by an expert that somebody that I've worked with for years, that we brought on an advisory.
Got it.
I mean, like this is the organization that we're going to need to compete.
Yeah. Because if we don't do this, whoever else is going to do it.
Yeah. And we weren't winning. We weren't scoring. It's another one of my 25 things. It's like to really I think, sometimes you lose your way in winning. Maybe you don't. My perception is I walked around your offices here. These people were all great, by the way. They're all excited. They're all smiling. They're all on the phone. They all introduced themselves. They all said hello. Like, this is a winning, you just have a winning vibe going on here. But sometimes when things get hard and you're implementing projects and, like when you're in a game, how often do you look at the scoreboard?
All the time.
All the time. If you're in a football game, man, it's between every play. What's the down? What's the distance? How much time's
on the
yards
clock? We need.
Yeah, all of this stuff. So, like when an organization kind of starts struggling to compete, and now you got the hood open and you're trying to figure out like why the lead's not going, why the conversions are down, why all this stuff's down. I mean, it's, you lose track of the fact that like you have to be scoring. Like, what's the quickest way to score? And if they're an employee mindset, they're not going to figure that out. They might not figure it out, right? So you have to help them try to figure out like, hey, okay.
How do you score and add value to the company?
Yeah, because they're not willing to throw out everything or they might not have the authority, or they might not have the mindset to throw out everything. Just say, hey, this is how you score now. We don't have to do all that stuff anymore.
Right.
But they're not gonna disintermediate themselves from a job or a process. So that's where, like we have to take that leadership right now. We have to leadership in companies right now through what's going on in the last 12 months and the next 24 is going to be so critically important to manage that change and to take bold steps and to be able to know what the right moves are. I mean, I am on the road so much, talking to everybody that I can, because I want to be absolutely sure that I am leading us in the right direction.
Yeah. You want to have great discernment.
Great discernment.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it's interesting because I have a lot of thoughts on everything you said, because they're literally all the same thoughts I've been wrestling with. And literally, like I said, I already had planned a meeting right after this to talk about AI and labor and what all that means in 2025, because I think it's here, not like 2 years from now, like it's here now.
It's here now.
And, some people it'll take time for them to figure out that they could have did this a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever, right? But, how do you, for me anyways, like you said, we have great people who have been here, and we have people that, the last year I literally revamped everything, planning for the future. I'm like, I have to figure out where all this is going, because clearly we're in a transitionary phase in this marketplace and everything else. And so how do I make the right bets on where everything's going? And I feel like this year, now with where we're at today, I made the right bets, which is good. But now I look at, okay, now that we know where we're going as far as product, as far as services and strategy, how do you amplify that now? How do you get the most out of your dollars and everything else? And it's like, well, clearly there's a lot of positions that aren't necessary in this new world, or that are devalued because of AI. And how do you repurpose those people into new things?
Yeah.
Because they're all good people.
So if we go back to the rise of the collaborations, you've started doing collaborations to provide services, even without calling it collaborations. Yeah. But collaborations are just a manifestation of the efficiency that to which the marketplace is already organizing itself.
Yeah, like everybody's revealing how they're going to have to help each other.
And you realize that you can't probably do all of these things yourself.
No, I can't start up software.
Right. But now for some reason as business owners, we're a lot more open to it. We're a lot more open to getting there now through a collaboration or a partnership, and then understanding that people are going to, and it gives us the ability to sell differently and to stack more value.
What I've realized too about some of these collaboration companies is they actually can't even exist without collaboration.
That's right.
So like for me, it's tough when you could exist with no collaboration, which was kind of my mindset for a while. I'm like, dude, I don't need to do affiliates. We don't need to do this. I'll just wheel and deal and do what we do. And we did. But now I see all these things and I'm like, wow, that was 10 million on the table that I lost. I should have $10 million in my bank if I would have just did this one thing 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. If I would have just not had an ego about trying to just do everything myself and build it myself and own it and whatever, right? And, because I, for example, okay, let me say this in an easy way, at least in the real estate space, everybody wants you to affiliate everything when you have an audience. And
okay, what do you mean by that exactly?
Okay, so let's say these softwares, okay? Before, let's say 3 years ago, you'd always have these software companies saying, hey, affiliate our stuff to your students and blah, 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 right? We'll give you a 30% affiliate, recurring revenue, build up your affiliate. You know, this guy's making this guy's making that. And I'm like, dude, like, for me anyways, it's just not worth it because first off, it's just not a ton of money at the end of the day. It's just a distraction for me. And then two, it's like, dude, I'm over here spending all my time, you know, spending money acquiring customers, making content, doing all this stuff. This isn't even like a fair collaboration,
Right.
in my mind, right? Well, like you said, the market tells you what it's worth. As time has gone on, what I thought was true ended up being true. Now that collaboration has switched gears. Good example of this, Go High Level. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They will let you white label their stuff for $0.
Yes.
You can make all of it,
Yeah.
which is how I thought it always should have been because it's cost so much to acquire customers and everything else. So Go High Level really is just like, yo, keep it all. We'll just make money on usage.
If it's a great deal for them, but a good deal for you, does it matter?
Well, if it's a great deal for them and good deal for, no, it doesn't. Not in my mind. No.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's a good deal for you, it might be a little better for them. You're bigger. You got a bigger name. You got a bigger, more customer base or whatever.
Yeah.
But still, you're still getting there.
Yeah. Well, I guess my point with all this was that deal in particular made a lot of sense to me. I said, oh, well, if I'm going to make this amount, I don't care about usage. You guys make usage. I can now build this into my pricing model as extra value to get a customer or as its own standalone thing. And, you know, we make recurring on that. But anyway, it just is like where I thought the market always should have been. It finally caught up.
Good.
Because I just always thought that the person acquiring the customers had the power because of supply and demand, at least in this industry. Because supply and demand wise, there's only a few people who have influence. It's say in the real estate,
Right.
house flipping space. There's only a few, but there's lots of software providers.
Right.
And we know that their cost of the software, once it's created, is not much.
Yeah. Well, privity to the customer, usually that's paramount value.
The what?
Privity to I mean, like...
privacy.
Yeah, no, primitive. Like since you are acquiring the customers, you have the highest value in the value chain.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's how I always felt. And then it was like, well, you know, we'll make 70% and you make 30. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, as time goes on. And then sure enough, it actually did play out the way I thought it would play out.
Okay.
It just took the market to catch up. Now everyone, because all it takes is one software company to do that.
Right.
And then everyone else has to follow suit.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, bro, they're letting me keep 100% of this, you know, and you guys make usage. And it's like, that's why I think the consumer always benefits at the end because competition forces pricing down in terms of if you have similar products.
Right.
You know, Amazon will always price out whoever.
That's right.
Like, that's just kind of like, in my mind, the natural way it happens. So anyways, I don't know. It's a long story short. I'm now doing way more collaborations this year because I think the market has caught up with the value of like the true value of what like an influencer, like, dude, if I spent the last 5 years getting 1 billion views and building hundreds of thousands on the email list.
Right.
And I spent millions of dollars to do this. And then you're like, yeah, dude, come promote my thing and get 20%. I'm like, yeah, no, take a hike.
Yeah.
But that's how it's always been.
Yeah.
Now it's switched.
Where do you ascribe the most value? I've had some people tell me that they would give up a leg before they give up their email list.
That's a good question. I think most digital marketers would tell you like an email list is like extremely valuable. And ours definitely is. But I don't know. I still feel like social media, just making content, still derives the most value for us. I still think the way I look at marketing now is that, you know, you have your organic content like this, right? It's free. Anyone can watch it. It's great.
Right.
And I think that just builds trust because now, dude, if anyone's still listening to this, I mean, we're talking about like really, really high level stuff that you're just really not seeing in that many places. So I would think if anyone was listening to this and they were thinking about buying a franchise or thinking about getting into real estate, they're gonna be like, dude, you know what? I'm gonna buy a franchise from Jeff. That dude knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Or hey, you know what? I'm gonna get trained by Ryan. Like he's thinking about real estate in a whole different way than everyone else. That's how I would hope. But the way I then go is, all right, well, the organic stuff is going to get what it gets. And then, we have to run paid ads.
Right.
To retarget those people with like a true call to action. Because right now I don't have a call to action, right? It's just we're talking.
Yeah.
So if I send now call to actions with ads, that really turns them into customers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I always think about it now. But kind of like, oh yeah, this was my original point with the collaborations was there's a lot of companies that can't exist if they had to pay to acquire customers. Because the cost of acquisition is so high. Like, and this was my whole point, even with those affiliates before, is okay, if I do paid ads, my customer acquisition cost might be $1,000 to $2,000 for one customer, right? Now, that's why before all this, you had to pay, or someone's going to have to come up with $4,000, $5,000 up front,
right,
to cover the marketing, the sales, let alone all the other business expenses,
right.
So to get them for only $1,000, you got to have really built-in things to still maintain cash flow and profitability, right? And my theory is that others can't do that. So my theory is because I'm basically undercutting the competition.
Because you have scale or because you have advantage?
Both.
And you have money?
Both.
You can do it. And your lifetime value, you can forward
I can
one or two.
I can delay
you
the lifetime.
You can give the 1,000 or 2,000 because you can flow it.
Yeah.
And then they'll hang around for 7, 10, 12 months, whatever.
Yeah. And because let's just say, number one, I have organic traffic. So yeah, it might cost me 1,000 or 2,000 with a paid ad, but I get all this free traffic too. So the blend allows it to work.
Isn't that funny how people don't calculate the return on ad spend by first subtracting out the referral business?
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, I got $1 million business. I spent $80,000. I spent 8%. No, you didn't spend 8%. You probably got half your customers from that. You probably spent 16%.
Yeah.
And the rest of it came referral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm talking strictly attributed to paid ads.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that plays a role into it. Lifetime value plays a role into it. Other services plays a role into it. So yeah, all that allows me to do it. But so you asked, is it scale or advantage? Scale allows me to do it because we already have these things built out, and the advantage is brand and all that, and not needing to sign them to a 12-month contract anymore.
Yeah. Because
if we're competing and somebody's like, hey, you got to sign a 12-month deal. It's 10, it's 10 grand for the 12 months. And I'm like, dude, just give me $1,000. If you don't like it, quit.
Right.
And also I'm going to give you more.
Yeah.
Who's going to win?
Yeah. We found in fitness that without the contract, we did have a shorter stay.
LTV.
Yeah.
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 And that's like the thing that even, and who knows if my model is going to prove it out correct. But right now it's proven to be good.
Sure.
Since doing it. But yeah, then the test we would have to run is, would I rather lose customers forcing a 12-month commitment? And then how does that increase LTV? Yeah. So it would be like a basic math problem for anyone wondering. It's like, all right, maybe we sign half the customers forcing a contract.
Yeah. Well, and then the question is though, if you can get more people in on the month to month, then how can you find different wallets to get into, or how can you ascend the customer into other things? Like
and that's
how many steps do you have that they can just keep buying?
Well, if they scale, they can buy infinite leads.
Right.
They can buy infinite loans. And then we have different tiers. It's not just 1,000. There's 2,500. There's 4,000. There's different things they can ascend into.
Yeah, and basically you've transformed your business to a recurring model.
Yeah.
Which from a market value perspective, not that you're looking to ever take market value, but recurring is going to be more valuable. Yeah.
So I spent all of 24 doing that. And we took a hit this year versus last year, but I knew I had to.
Yeah.
To build this out the way it is. And now we're starting to see the compound effect. And I'm like, oh, okay. Recurring's nice when you actually start compounding and you're like, oh, it went up. It keeps going up each month. This is, well, now we already know we're good for next month. We don't even we're already in the green.
Yeah.
This is great. I've never felt that. Because I come from the flipping industry where you're only as good as your last kill.
That's right.
So
you need the next one.
Yeah.
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
So obviously you've already exited, a franchise business before. Now you're building these home front brands and you're adding new brands and new technology and all this.
That's right.
So how many people do you guys have right now? Like how many locations?
So we're about 220 franchise owners operating in 700 of our territories.
And you sell those territories by zip code?
We sell them by, yes, they are defined by zip code, but we actually do it by customer set.
Yeah.
So, there's this whole thing about responsibility in franchising. And one of the things that you take a responsibility to do is to make sure that you don't award franchisees customers or territories that don't have customers. So you actually do the...
Because they'll fail.
You do the analytics.
Right.
To the best of your ability to make sure. So it might be something like in our temporary walls, 4,000 buildings, 4,000 potential building sites, commercial buildings, or a certain number of households of a certain number of whatever. But then, we wrap it all up by zip code because we have to do routing.
Yeah. Got it. So what's the plan? Like, do you intend to sell this Homefront brands in a couple of years? Like, what does it have to get to a certain level? Like how because you said you got to have the outcome in mind. So you're telling them.
We do. I mean, so we're working backwards from a 2037 goal of 18 brands, $5 billion in sales.
2037.
That's where we're working backwards from there.
15 years from.
Yeah. And think about it. It's, you've got business owners. It's going to take them 5 to 7 years to build their business. Then they might want to sell it to the next person that comes along. So, we say create 5,000 millionaires, but, we're going to have 2,000 franchisees at any one time.
Right.
Everything that we've done is focused on having a smaller number of large franchisees. So like everything that we built, from the brands that we chose to the investment in technology, to our learning management system, to our territory model, to everything, is to allow franchise owners to build bigger businesses. Because there's franchise systems that have, 1,500 franchise owners in a single brand.
Right.
Well, you should be able to accomplish that with 300.
So do you anticipate, because you want less owners, more territories?
Less owners, but bigger, more revenue out of each owner.
Right.
Yeah.
Is your way of doing that going to be having each owner focus on one brand and multiple zips? Or is it going to be, hey, we want you to own multiple different brands and multiple different zips?
Right now, we're less than 5% multi-brand.
Okay, got it.
I think with technology and tools, it's easier for a business owner to operate two disparate brands on the same platform.
Right. Because
you're using basically the same tools, the same support, the same learning management, and there'll be some efficiencies that they'll get on the back end of that. But, again, $5 billion in sales, 2,000 franchise owners but there will be churn in that. Some of them will have exited successfully. The next person's building it. And then we want to give 1 million books to kids through our Carson Scholars partnership. We're building reading rooms. I'm very excited. We got our first reading room that is being built in North Carolina. We build them in schools that are underfunded or Title I schools, and we fill them up with books.
So it's a library.
Yeah. And it's a safe place for those kids to go in and get access to these books. So we're excited about that. I mean, we care about, economic freedom, financial stability for families on Main Street, USA. We care about children's literacy, and then we care about veterans. So we support all of those three things and the things that we do. When I sold my business, one of the things that I realized was, money makes life complex. There's a certain amount of complexity to having money and things you got to do. You got to invest it. People are going to try to take it, even if it's advisors and trust managers and things like that. So when I started Homefront Brands, there really had to be purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And we came out of 2019, 2020, 2021. We came out of COVID. We came out of, riots in cities and all that kind of stuff. And, franchising small business is an economic engine in this country that is so critically important to, any town USA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 46 to 60% of GDP, small businesses. Over 90% of people are employed by small businesses. And
what are your thoughts for, somebody listening to this? What are the requirements to become a franchise owner? I mean, there's got to be financial, there's got to be time commitment. What do these people need?
Commitment. They can build the capabilities, which will in turn help them build confidence.
Yeah.
They've got to have a certain amount of commitment, and that starts with capital.
Yep.
It starts with responsibility, their time, their energy. We do have an executive model, but the people have to be very well capitalized. They have to be experienced business builders.
What's an executive model?
Meaning that they're not going to be the owner operator to begin with.
Oh, okay.
They're going to hire salespeople. They're going to hire management.
But they got to hire they got to know how to hire people. Like,
they got to know how to hire people, and they should probably have a vested partner in the business, somebody that they've worked with before.
Who's going to be the operator.
We have a lot of sophisticated owners, people that own $50 million businesses, and they will put somebody into this business, and it's usually is somewhat connected to the business that they have.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a contractor or something like that. So
they're going to use them as a sub.
If you've built multiple businesses, you got a $50 million business, and you want to come in and operate our temporary walls, we're going to let you do it.
Yeah.
If you're coming out of corporate America and you've never built a business and you've never had employees, you say, I want to run this absentee, we're going to pause. You're
going to fail.
We're going to, maybe not, but they don't have the requisite capabilities yet to be able to do something.
So what does
like
that person do?
Well, we're going to ask that they operate the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And by the way, I say the same thing, because we don't sell franchises, but in a way it's kind of like, hey, we're going to teach you how to start your own house flipping, wholesaling business. And
that's right.
All that. But yeah, you get people who are like, well, dude, I just want to hire out immediately. And I'm like, dude, like, you've never owned a business. It's like, dude, you're going to have to call some sellers and learn how to do this.
You've got to give away what you know the best. So if you're the best salesperson in your organization, it's easier to give away sales because you know what good looks like. You know what the metrics are. You know what the pace needs to be. You can tell when they're sandbagging or they're not closing or those types of things. If you try to give away something that you don't fully understand and you don't have proficiency in, then how do you know? All you have to rely on is them telling you, well, I couldn't do it, or it took this long. So really, taking the time to learn the skills does matter.
Yeah. Side note, do you guys give all for sales, or all your quotes like in person, like at the site, or do you do them over the phone?
Generally on site.
Got it.
Yeah. At the point of attack.
Got it. Okay. Just side note, because I was just wondering how AI might change your sales game.
Mm-hmm.
But right now everything's in person for that final sale.
That's the gold standard. I mean, there might be something that you have to do to send them a quote if you don't have all the information or something like that. But
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So those kinds of people, they just basically need to have commitment, one way or the other. More commitment if you've never run a business than somebody else who's,
that's right.
Experienced. What could a typical franchise, what should somebody expect in revenue? Because I know the documents will say like what the average does.
Yeah.
So like, give me one of your brands. What would be the expected revenue and net?
We can't do earnings claims, so I have to be really careful about, what I say, or we will never say that you will make some profit.
Nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah. Well,
you can lose money.
And especially profit, because it's like, it's up to you in
how
running
well
the business.
You keep your cost.
Yeah, but each of the franchise disclosure documents, and we are regulated, has what's called an Item 19 disclosure, which is the financial performance representations. So generally, in some of our documents, you'll have full P&Ls from a handful of locations. If it's a more established brand, and then there's some requirements about you don't put anyone in there that's been operating less than 12 months.
Yeah.
So it's really going to be a subset of your operators. But, generally we look for multi-million-dollar AUVs, average unit volumes. If we're going to attract sophisticated business builders, that are well capitalized, that are going to be committed to this business. They don't want a business that shows that it can do 200,000 a year. They want a business that can do millions of dollars a year, because there is no outcome without income. Like
your $200,000 a year business will never make $1 million.
It's not going to, it's, mathematically, if you figure that out, put that in the chat.
You'll net $1 million somehow.
Let chat figure that out. But yeah, I mean, so like we look for multi-million-dollar AUVs. These are significant businesses. They usually have a residential and commercial base. They're going to have some supply chain thing. But I mean, these businesses need to be material so that people can build something and get to a certain threshold to where they can have an outcome by selling that business one day.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you can say, but my guess is any of these businesses could potentially, net 10 to 30%.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you're getting a multi-million-dollar business, let's say it's $2 million a year, and you're netting 20%, you're making $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as what's your opinion? I mean, obviously, I would say you're going to say buy a franchise, but like, do you think it's better to buy just a normal everyday business or buy into a franchise?
Look, either way can work if you're willing to work it.
Right.
Now,
you're not going to have support with just the normal random one-off business.
Yeah. Now, why is franchising so pervasive? I mean, look at childcare, look at haircuts, look at pets now, look at the service industry, look at food. Franchising creates leverage at multiple levels. Something like you said earlier. There's Blue Ocean Strategy is a great book from the late 90s.
Great book. Yeah.
Yeah. So anywhere along the value innovation chain where you can create savings or you can save a nickel, the whole chain goes up. So for us, by doing call center, we in my previous brands that I owned, we answered 250,000 inbound customer calls, booked all the appointments, quoted air duct cleaning jobs, dispatched every emergency. And with 16 FTEs, we replaced what would have been 300 to 400 operators in the franchise network. So that savings goes everywhere.
Right.
So private equity is all over franchising because of the leverage fundamentals of the business model. You don't have to build. I mean, we're investing $600,000 in learning management this year. There's no
everyone gets the benefit.
Yeah, they're not paying us. There's no line item that says they're paying for that. I'm making that investment because they need that to sell their business and have an outcome one day because, for all of the reasons
you
why.
As the franchisor, I mean, obviously you get a franchise fee.
That's
and
right.
then you get a percentage of revenue.
Yeah, we get a royalty.
Yep.
And then there'll be a tech fee. Okay. So they'll pay for their proportioned use of the technologies.
Okay.
There'll be some different sorts of marketing vendors they'll pay directly.
Yep.
A handful of those types of things. And then we have a national, what's called either a brand fund or a national ad fund, which is a point or two that is used
Can people market on their own as well?
Oh, they need to. They have local advertising requirements.
Got it.
That they need to hit.
That has nothing to do with the national.
Yeah, the national is things like PR, campaigns like that. We'll do trade show circuits out of that.
Yep.
Things like that are for the benefit of everybody. But yeah, they have a local advertising requirement that they need to hit. The good owners spend 3, 4, 5 times as much as the minimum required is.
Yeah.
But they'll do it with our approved vendors or in other ways that are part of the playbook.
Got it.
Yeah. But ultimately, you really couldn't replace, there's something called the affiliation benefit that we have to be mindful of. Because you're affiliated with Homefront brands, how much revenue, and because of the things that we did together or the things that we did on your behalf, how much revenue did you get? For what we provide, you could never do that on your own.
Right.
So it's a value
It's hard to quantify
as
directly.
long as we're providing it with quality and excellence and consistency and all of those types of things.
Yeah.
I think you get in trouble when you don't. But good franchise systems are well established in their technology. Learning management, I mentioned, it's a key strength for us. We really invested heavily in it early because think about it, they're hiring people all the time. There's turnover. Those people need to be trained.
Is McDonald's still like the biggest franchise in the world? Who would be?
Oh, I don't know. They're pretty big. Subway's big. McDonald's is big. By dollars?
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A.
But they don't technically franchise the way other people do.
It is a franchise technically, but it's a modified franchise model.
They own it all still.
Yeah, they do. But you're an operating partner.
Yeah.
But it's still technically, I think, under a franchise agreement because it has to be.
Chick-fil-A kills it. Talk about just taking care of people.
Yeah. Love the brand.
Yeah. I just thought of this while we were talking about money. How do you think like AI is going to affect CFOs and people like that?
That's a really, really good question. That is an area, finance in particular.
Yeah.
Is, it's no secret anymore how money gets made by finance people, by acquisitions, by tuck-ins, by efficiencies. I mean, if you don't speak the language of finance, then you're a dumb farmer. like private equity people make billions of dollars by finding people like me that spent 25 years slugging it out building a company and then underpaying me for it. Didn't happen to me because I got good advisory. But what I recognized during that process was there is a whole nother language of finance that if you don't know it, you will get taken advantage of. And people are going to take your asset, repackage it, and sell it for what you could have got.
Yeah, exactly.
Know? So I would hope, you're talking about even the playing field. It would be nice if there were some AI tools that could actually take a business and all of the finances and translate it into the language of finance.
Yeah, I'm sure chat could.
And put some of the power back to the business owner. But like most business owners wouldn't even know the right questions to ask.
Right. Chat, go list my business for sale and package it as good as humanly possible.
Put all the ad backs in.
Yeah.
Figure out, what's all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Speaking of that, like as we wrap up, you're talking about selling a business, right? We've talked about you potentially selling in 2037.
Well, no, that's our 2037 goal. I mean, we will recap before that.
Yeah. Okay. So you'll sell before that. Maybe you keep some equity.
Yeah. I mean, I could see doing like a debt recap or a minority or something, but I like the way it's going right now.
So with the debt recap, you guys have raised capital to do all this.
Yeah, I've wrote it. It's self-funded.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I funded this whole thing. But using, we could get onto other people's money with the debt recap, but eventually we will want to, some of these acquisitions are going to need to be bigger. I mean, just the natural progression of the platform is, we'll need a capital partner, along the way.
Got it.
At some point, it won't be before 2037. I mean, 2027, I don't think, but I could definitely see as we get into 28 or 29 that,
you'll need some capital to come in.
But,
what are you going to acquire? What would you acquire?
I mean, we'll continue to acquire. I mean, there are platforms in our space that own 30 different property service brands.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, there's painting, there's everything.
So you would buy that franchise and rebrand them to be under yours?
Well, if they were a franchise, we would just tuck them in under the Homefront.
So now there's a new Homefront franchise.
Yeah, and they would operate as whatever they were.
Now, would you be open to buying just the actual franchisees' locations, or are you only interested in buying the franchisor?
A lot of franchise platforms do operate franchisees, but typically only of brands that they own.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So you have to own the brand.
Yeah, we would have to own the brand. But yeah, it's not a bad thing to operate some. You have your own test kitchens.
Yeah. You go buy a couple just to see if this is a market you want to break into.
You could do that as well. Yeah, that would be responsible.
So what multiple could a franchisee sell at? Like, how does that work?
Well, it depends on, what their EBITDA is, but in the service industry, generally EBITDAs under $1 million are going to be a 3 to 5 probably. And, over $1 million, maybe they're a 6 to 8. And if you get over $2 to $3 million, they could be a, 8 to 10, something like that.
Repeat that just so you were talking EBITDA?
It depends on the size of the EBITDA, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
and then from the franchisor perspective, like what kind of multiples are you looking at?
Much higher.
Yeah. And
it's all recurring, it's
the recurring royalties and like royalties and all those fees are just that's the revenue. I mean, the franchise fee itself is kind of just funding getting them started.
It's really break even.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's acquisition.
Yeah, and the support is really heavy the first year.
Right.
Getting them open, getting them trained.
Yeah.
Going out and doing site visits.
So you're trying to break even on the franchise fee, and then everything else is recurring profit.
That's right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So where do people go if they want to learn more?
Well, you can go to homefrontbrands.com. We've got it all there. You can reach out to me, Jeff Dudan, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. If you want a free copy of my book, Discernment, the Business Athlete's Regimen for a Great Life Through Better Decisions, just go to Instagram and give us your email because we want your email.
Yep.
And you get a free copy of the book electronically right away. And other than that, on the Homefront podcast with Jeff Dudan, anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And your episode did great, by the way. Thank you.
Awesome. Go check that. We'll link to that down below. Just curiosity, where do you get most of your clients?
Either organic ads that we place.
On where?
Facebook. So on Meta.
So mainly Meta
Google,
paid ads?
Yeah, paid ads.
Got it.
Or there is a thriving community of franchise brokers and consultants out there.
Yeah. And they're the ones taking most of that franchise fee.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're online and they're grabbing clients and they provide a value.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. They'll walk them through, and they'll introduce them to 3 to 5 concepts and
they get to pick.
give them assessments and things like that. Really help them understand. So the good ones do a really great job and they provide a valuable service.
Yeah. Cool. Well, guys, go check that out. Go follow Jeff. Hit him up if you're interested in franchising. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.